Hey everybody. So I'm back again at a slightly different angle and not as good of a lighting because the sun is down. So I just recently revisited what what I visited yesterday in the space that I was visiting in the capacity that I was in, which was not much because I didn't have a lot of spare attention. I was spending time with my buddy yesterday. Um, But I revisited that space, and it's like, so it wasn't even necessarily what I thought it was. Am I embarrassed? Yes. Um, and apparently, girl, I was ready to just be like triggered, and I was just looking at anything and everything, not even seeing what was actually happening. I guess I was already in anticipation of that space because of what I've traditionally heard that space like. Um, and that wasn't the case, which I'm excited about. I'm down for that. I mixed both of these together. And so that's why it's like, you know what? For my own intent, like everything I said in that video, I stand by, obviously. It just wasn't as warranted as I thought it was. Who's oh look at this. Chantel Angel of Silence. When you should have listened when you should have listened twice before you spoke. Hey Mimi, what's up? How are you doing today? Barakiel and Sukloth, Angel of Lightning and Angel of Verdancy came out. That's the dude, Barakiel. He's the one that shook himself. The wind passes the grass and waves, carrying with it the seed of growth, flowing across the landscape and burrowing into the cool soil. Plant life seeks the sky, and with it the dominion of Sukloth expands. Let your roots settle, it is the season for blossoming. The rituals Barakiel performed were an object of fascination for both men and angels alike. Despite the widespread appreciation for the fruits of this work to tend the lightning, few volunteered to assist him. Barakiel was renowned both for the power he commanded and also his lack of respect for it. His fall was the first proof beyond any doubt that watchers were not complete in their wisdom or immortality. And Sukloth? No, Shatael. When words fail, Shatael descends. The wind dies and the earth comes to a rest. In stillness, a new aspect emerges, the touch of an elusive angel. Space around it gains new meaning, held motionless by the grip of its presence. Fear not, it rarely lingers. Yeah, girl, I'm doing pretty good, thank you. It's exactly, and that's like, I guess that's what it was, because I was like, I've already said this. And like I said, like everything I said holds true. Like I still like believe it. It's just wasn't as provoked as I thought it was. I wanted to put these two together, but ooh, who was it? How are you? I already asked you how you're doing. But yeah, let's see. I wanted one of these. Oh, I have these two. I didn't even read these. I forgot. I was too busy putting my foot in my mouth. So the Ten of Clubs and the Jack of Spades came out. The beginnings of self-realization, caring for one's mental space, preparing to welcome something big, nearly awakened hidden power, breath that takes the shape of one's truest desires and a commitment to self. So there's this nearly awakened hidden power and the beginnings of a self-realization here. And I feel like this Barakiel signifies like this ability, this power coming into be. Sukloth speaks of the like the breath that takes the shape of one's desires and preparing to welcome something big. This transition and this change is like signified by Sukloth, angel of verdancy, with the angel of silence. I feel like it may be a time to, like I said, listen twice before you speak because something is changing. At least it is for me. Shoot. I was like, wow. And I felt so bad. I'm like, wow, I really didn't like not paid attention at all, I guess. But it's fine. What am I doing? That's it. That's all I wanted to say, really. Ananiel, angel of storms. This season brings many things, fairer tidings and fairer weather. A bold and brilliant sky shining in golden hue, these destined days without end. Look to the horizons, my son, see for yourself, its glory becomes this. You can't even see Ananiel. But we got the angel of storms with the angel of lightning and verdancy. You needed some laughs, so you watched Jamie French makeup and movies talk about bring it on, all or nothing. Oh snap. I think that's one of my favorite ones. I think I watched that with my little brother. It was like Christmas Eve, and they had a Bring It On marathon for some reason. And we stayed up and we watched it. And we didn't really get along at all. So the fact that we watched that was like, I was like, oh snap, there's hope for us. And then, I went to college, we didn't live together, and then our relationship improved significantly. Uh, but when I stay here, my dreams be like a different kind of weird or on a different level. I had a dream last night and I told one of my friends about it. She was like, "Ooh, girl, let me pull you some cards." I was like, "Please do." And she did and got a whole bunch of what I wasn't necessarily expecting. Um, but in the dream, I just remember being like so shocked how clear the message was. It's an energy that I've seen the name of and the visage of in dreams, but I've never like really received. I don't think I've ever really just like heard. And it was weird because in the dream I was just like laying in bed and hearing the voice. And I was like, "Oh, snap, it's so clear. I can hear it." What? I was so impressed and awed, distracted by the fact that I could actually like hear clearly what was being said that I don't even fully know what was being said. But it's basically an energy of like taking on a different aspect or being able to serve or fulfill a different role because change in environment. And I feel like lately I don't even fully understand why, I guess. But it's like I've been kind of sort of defaulting to um how can I say this as vaguely as possible, right? I've been defaulting to a space that I guess doesn't align with where I'm going. It feels like it's time for me, myself, to, in a lot of ways, it's time for my soul. You had a full blown racial experience in your dream 3 nights ago. A full blown what in a dream, girl? What? That'd be the worst kind. I guess it's like I can't even get no peace in my dream. But I guess also a lot is happening right now. Oh, snap, wait. The Angel of Aries just came out, and I think the sun is officially in Taurus. If the sun is in Taurus, I know what I want to pull. I just want to pull for the energy that Taurus is going to bring us, right? Sun is 0 degrees Taurus. Mercury is 1 degree Taurus. Venus is 6 degrees Taurus. Uranus is 10 degrees Taurus. Come through, Taurus stellium. Let's go. So when we have that new moon, then everything is probably still going to be in Taurus. Let's see. First is the full moon. What is it like? April 26th. So let's go like May. You know the day? Tens, yes. May 10th. Let's try May 10th. Oh no. Hold up, wait. Girl, hold up. How are they this fast? Both Venus and Mercury are going to be in Gemini. Girl, y'all just got into Taurus. What y'all in a rush for? Hello? So it'll be Uranus, the moon, and the sun in Taurus, but Venus and Gemini will already be in Gemini. Mars will be in Cancer. Jupiter will be 29 degrees Aquarius. Just go into Pisces already. Like, hello. But I guess I just want to pull a few cards for this Taurus season. All I have is the angels and this other deck, so we already been too comfortable. So I can use a vacation. I probably don't need it right now. Sariel, angel of the waning moon again. This angel always this she comes out frequently, but this moon looks pretty full to me. The lighting is terrible, but as the earth tugs on the moon tugs back on the earth. For each force, another will always exist in perfect opposition. The lives of men and angels are similar. Though the power of one may be greater than the other, their existence reflects each other. Everybody apparently is going to Las Vegas. It's like every month there's like a new handful of people who's been to Las Vegas. I don't know if it's because Vegas is like fairly relaxed apparently, but like my cousins just went to Las Vegas. One of my childhood friends just went to Las Vegas. I didn't even know. Well, there's some neighbors, and one of them got married. He's actually the first. So the youngest is the first one of us to get married, which was like interesting. It is what it is. They went to Vegas, I guess, for the bachelor party. Um, some other people went to Vegas. Somebody on like Instagram or something. I'm like, Vegas is apparently popping, or like Reno. Somebody went to Reno, maybe, but Reno isn't like around Vegas, right? So, the angel of the waning moon, talking about the connection between man and angels and how they reflect each other. I feel like Taurus is interesting. I feel like Taurus is like full earth sign, but also has certain, like all signs, connectivity. They've been to Florida or California, and you've been yearning for somebody's beach. Well, hopefully you get it soon, girl. If I could go anywhere, I guess I would be here. I don't really want to go anywhere else right now, unless we're talking about a different country. Then sign me up. An abrupt change of season, the vision catching up to fantasy, the filling of valleys and the falling of mountains. Oh, that's funny. The filling of valleys and the falling of mountains. So I had to put my foot in my mouth like fully. I couldn't partially run back to my little corner of the internet where nobody saw the video. Well, not a few people saw the video I made, and then they'll see this one in response to that one. But I just said that like valleys need to be filled, mountains need to be leveled because the element like earth has memory. If you plow the land, if you till the land will remember. If a tree falls in the forest will remember. It's not like you come back the next day and the tree is just standing upright because it forgot that it fell. And so I think a lot of times when we interact, and I guess it's interesting that it came out for Taurus too. Ooh, the Ten of Hearts and the Two of Hearts came out. That's Ten of Cups, Two of Cups, Queen of Pentacles. But it's the Two of Essences and the Ten of Essences with the Teacher of Zones um, under this waning moon. Again, I think that's interesting for Taurus because they are such an earthy sign, but I feel like they still, the energy is, it's like earth psychic. Does that make sense? Maybe because it's connected to the senses. I don't know. So we have being between worlds, a vision brought to life, choices that require foresight and communication, with a stargate that leads to fantastic places, correcting what has been misused, and stabilizing timelines. The typos abound. I mean, everything is like flipped anyway, but let's see. What is this? An abrupt change of season. The vision catching up to fantasy, a vision brought to life. It could be, yeah, because the body itself is pretty, it's tuned into itself. So if anything is going on with the body internally, a lot of times it'll let us know, maybe in ways that we don't fully understand, but the body knows what it needs and it communicates with us through a language that we don't necessarily speak, a language that we have to learn, right? Like, this is good for my body, this isn't bad for my body. When my body does this, it means that. It could also be linking the physical body to the spiritual body, and that, like, whenever my nose itch because I get a reading, then that means that somebody's about to get money. I don't know. I feel like maybe Carissa from Flavor Vivid has said something like that before. But it's like those ties that the body, because it's like the body is sort of infinitely, I guess, intelligent in its ability to comprehend what it's lacking or what it needs, and its ability to communicate it. It's us that's sort of like lacking. Um, but the vision is here twice. And then we have an abrupt change of season with this Stargate. So with the journey of essences, we're sitting at the 2 and the 10. The 2 of essences is the space of polarization. It's when we're split into dark and light, masculine, feminine, yin, yang. And then the 10 of essences is that moment where we discover ourselves in context of like your soul's history or our soul's history. But it's a context of ourself like in this lifetime as compared to all lifetimes in general. It's like fire is the library, water is the book that you're reading, or it's the play that you're in from an entire work or collection, right? And then the teacher of zones and the Queen of Pentacles is here. There's something here about like navigating duality within self in a way that is very sort of masterful, in a way that produces results on a scale that maybe we haven't necessarily seen before. And it's like it's because of this vision. Also, there's this energy of like being between worlds, this Stargate, and the choices that require foresight. Choices that require foresight and correcting what has been misused. And then we're also stabilizing the timeline here. And like with this connection between man and angels, although the difference in power is there and how they reflect each other's existence, there's an energy of like being more. Because a lot of angels sort of have like a realm or a domain. They're not necessarily pigeonholed, but they have what they specialize in, and then you don't really seek them for much of anything else because there's an angel for the other thing. But as man, it's almost like an angel can reflect more of a divine nature in the depth of that characteristic but man reflects more of a divine nature in the breadth of a range of characteristics. And so it's almost like here we're learning to add depth where we have breadth, and it gives us more dimensionality. It's like whenever those cards came out, it was the two of Ariel, I remember. And I was like, oh, that's like the X plane and the Y plane. And the High Priestess came out. Maybe the Hierophant came out with, it was another card with two pillars. I think it was the Initiate. I think it was the Initiate and the Hierophant. Um, and it's like the Hierophant sort of has these built-in limitations on full energy on the Initiate, because the Hierophant kind of sort of outlines for you what you can do, what you can't do, what's possible, what's not possible, and like different it can also come with different restrictions depending on the Hierophant you subscribe to. But the High Priestess sort of like navigates all of that without limitation. And that's almost the gift of man, that you can sort of experience so many different things and try, not try, but it's like you can experience many different things and sort of develop a depth of varying degrees in all of them. And so it's almost like if you could take a host of angels, dilute them, like water them down a lot, and then put them all together, you get people, angels and demons, probably for people, because we got light sides and dark sides. And, there are energies and entities that have both light and dark, even though they officially sort of sit on one or the other. But there is an energy here. Again, it's like being a different aspect. And I don't necessarily know what the teacher of zones would have to say about being a different aspect. Bottom of the deck is Bezaliel. Again, which one? Okay, it's this one. Bezaliel, Angel of Shadows, which comes out. Bezaliel is the new like Leliel. Like Bezaliel is constantly coming out. Falling through the branches, standing still among the shaking leaves, stop and listen. My approach, my touch. The wind shifts, and there I am, cool against your skin. I will not leave you. And so when that high priestess came out, I was like, well, we have light and dark, and that's still only like two dimensions. But it feels like light and dark are hyperdimensional spaces. And in the polarity between the two of them and the balancing of the polarity between the two, it's like most dimensions exist. Every dimension exists that aren't dimensions of like a unified plane, basically. And when you like master both of them, or when you come into an understanding of both of them, is when you really start to understand. You get a sort of sense of depth. So I think that's where this comes in. This teacher of zones, because it would be the teacher of zones that understands, you have your springtime and your fall time, a time to bloom, a time for harvest, and then you have your summer and your winter. You have your time when the night is longest and the time when the day is longest, and then you have a time where they're equal. And when they're equal, it's like we sort of do different things. We prepare differently for that shift and for that change. But in this one, it's an abrupt change of season. And so I think it's this, there is an energy here. And it's sort of along the lines of what I was saying in the past video of like, when you come into a certain level of awareness, consciousness, sovereignty, power, whatever, I feel like there's a tricky balance in like learning to use it in ways that don't work against you. But also, since we share a reality, learning that there is sort of like more out of your control. And more than like balancing polarities, it feels like balancing aspects because it's like it's a hyperdimensional level. The top of the deck is Zachiel. Who is this? Oh, Samyaza. I'm actually gonna take Samyaza because her moon is like actually waning. There's that moon. Like this is the angel of the waning moon, but that moon looked pretty full to me. It was what did we just have a full moon like 2 seconds ago? If that's waning, let me stop. But Zachiel came out before the angel of purity, but before Zachiel was under the angel of the deep. And it was like, when we go into the deep, we don't know what's there. You don't know if you're going to have enough oxygen to come back out if you go down there. And so there is a certain element of, I guess, abandon or surrender that we need. But again, in the space of the high priestess, now it's taken me all the way back to that energy where it's like there are certain spaces where only the light can exist and certain spaces where only the dark can exist. And so you have to, when you come into an increased mastery of the balancing of those aspects, it's like you can cloak your light in darkness so that you can enter those spaces, but still maintain your light. And then, like, similarly, you can cloak your darkness in light, or you can envelop your shadow in light to take your shadow into those spaces where only the light can exist. And it feels like taking your light into the shadow is going deeper within, and bringing your shadow into the light is expanding your experience externally. So, Zachiel, angel of purity, Zachiel was a valuable teacher in the realm of medicine, but his demeanor scared people. When he talked about living things, it was clear that he didn't see them for what they were, but rather what they were made of, blood and bone. When Zacchaeus' actions resulted in death, there was no remorse. To him, there was no consequential difference between the death of a child and the harvest of a stalk of wheat. Girl, this is this is not the purity I was expecting. Oh, Zacchaeus, girl, wait. It almost feels like that's the thing to be mindful of, though, or the thing to be wary of. It's almost like be careful that we don't lose our humanity as we're going through these levels of ascension. Um, it's like there is a difference. Like all life is life, yes. And so the loss of a life in one form shouldn't necessarily be too much different than the loss of life in another form. But there is. And that's one of the things about Earth, I guess. To live, you have to eat something living, regardless of if that living thing can like has the ability to move or not. You have to eat something living in order to continue your life. And I've always been the type of person where it's like I don't necessarily differentiate between like plants and animals too much. Like for me, like eating a plant isn't necessarily too much different from eating an animal. It's like just because plants don't scream when you sort of like call them doesn't mean that they don't feel anything. And what is it? It's like the smell of fresh cut grass is like the grass letting other grass know that a lawnmower is coming through or something like that. And it talks like, when plants can sort of experience shock. or trauma when you suddenly transplant them or suddenly remove them, or like whenever you remove a limb from something, it feels it. But just because it doesn't have the ability to let you know that it feels it doesn't mean that it doesn't. And so I've always been like, well, a plant, an animal. Honestly, I'm more attached to plants than I am animals. Um, but besides the point, and like I think it's interesting that he's the angel of purity as well. Because again, it's coming out in that sense. And maybe that's one of the differences between man and angels. Or it's like when you take a perspective that death doesn't exist, death isn't as final as a lot of us think it is. That at the end of one life, there exists another, and you'll have another cycle of incarnations in which you learn karmically, to adhere to your dharma in that life or whatever. But again, it's like with this earth and energy right here, I feel like it's like keep in mind that, like you're on earth, and on earth things matter. On earth, there are consequences. Earth is physical. Samyaza, angel of pride, that's Sariel, angel of the waning moon. LOL. Samyaza, angel of pride. As the angel sang, a single speck of something passed through the light and cast a tiny shadow down on the earth. Beneath the stars, that shadow looked back at the heavens and saw himself for the first time. He gave himself his own name and turned his back on the existence he'd been granted by the universe. One by one, Samyaza called out for his brethren, and they bowed to meet him. He was the giver of names, Lord and King. There was to be none before him and none after. Ugh. Who was? Oh, I guess these are the ones that bowed to him. I'm like, who was that creepy thing? Who are these creepy things? It's reminding me of. It's reminding me of a few things. It's reminding me of the power of a name, and that like we have this one true name, or I think in some cultures maybe it took the form of like the middle name. And it's like if there's like this name that we have, that if you know that name, you can basically gain control over somebody through the power of that name. But it's also giving me um it's similar. It's the power of names, but when you're named by something more powerful. It's an anime I watch. Um there's this one uh, dude. It's an isekai anime, so it's like a dude died on Earth and then he woke up in a in a different reality, in a different world. Um, and at first, he's just like giving people names because they're like, "Oh, we don't have names." He's like, "Oh, that's sad. I'll give you names," because he didn't yet understand the power in giving something a name. It also reminds me of Dayat, the Void, because in the book it talks about how like the void sort of signifies like there's nothing there. It doesn't really hold any space. In fact, it does the opposite of holding space. But it's important to name it still. It's the power of a name here. And now it's given me, especially with like navigating different aspects. It's giving me the energy of it's in the Heroes of Olympus books, because in Percy Jackson we see the Greek side of all the gods, but in the Heroes of Olympus they introduce the Roman sides. And as the gods are called different names, they sort of shift into different aspects of themselves. Where in the Roman culture, it more prioritized dominance, war, and conquering, victory. On the Greek side, it prioritized more art, philosophy, humanities, things like that. And so that's when you get like Mars in Greek, or you get Aries in Greek, or is it Mars? No, you get Aries in Greek, who's kind of sort of seen as an annoyance, who becomes Mars in Rome, who's celebrated because, they were an empire. Watched The Conjuring 2 last week, and she defeated the demon by remembering its name and took dominion over it. I watched The Nun, and in The Nun, no, did they have to have the name in The Nun? I don't know. But yeah, it's something of that nature. And even like Rumpelstiltskin, he was like, if you can guess my name, then you'll get to keep your baby. Um, and I just talked about Rumpelstiltskin and the Queen of Swords. In the Queen of Swords card right now, it's really holding that energy of like the need to be mentally flexible. But yeah, that's what it's bringing to mind. It's like when you call it something different, it takes on a different energy. Oh, here's the 10 of diamonds. A blistering heat and freezing cold that lies at the heart of creation. The truth of the heart made plain in beginnings. That blistering heat and freezing cold at the heart of creation, I feel like that's, again, it's getting to sort of the source of polarity. Who is this? Rearrangement and coagulation, seeing the truth of the self. Distorted creations abound. I don't know. Yeah, the nun was the demon in The Conjuring too. Oh, okay. Because I know I don't really watch a lot of anything, honestly. But I went to go see The Nun with one of my friends on campus who loved horror movies. Um, and they showed clips of like Frenchie, and they're like, "Oh, he was in the Conjuring or something." I was like, "I've never seen that movie, so this means nothing to me." Vow something the destroyer. So wait, they defeated it in the nun and it came back? Girl. The power in naming something. Can we can we give ourselves power by naming? No, well, maybe a higher aspect. Verkio, angel of Leo. As adversity washes against us, we rise with those waves. Each moment in our lives, we are challenged by the world. Where we are challenged by the world, we challenge it back. To be bold and in control is the nature of Verkiel, the ruler. This sign brings with it the courage to bring shining light into a world that struggles against the darkness. Top of the deck is Chazakiel, angel of mists, and the world that struggles against the darkness. This place that is somewhere in the middle. Where can I go if I am denied flight? How can I stay if I am denied presence? These questions fill the night air, crowding my wings and obscuring the light, but I know I am not the fog, but I also know that I am. I feel like it's a space of, again, just like earlier. And then there's Tamiel, angel of the unseen, with Lelio, angel of the night. And then Satario, angel of deception. So like it's mists, it's the unseen, it's night, it's deception, it's anger, it's rain, it's ruin, the mountain, and then the gate of Sahakiel. I'm gonna take a picture of this tree because I'm here now. Oh, okay. Gotcha. What was I talking about? Rulers, names, things of that sort. And I think again, for me personally, it's interesting, but I guess either way, I would have had to put my foot in my mouth a little bit. But I'm not too proud to admit when I'm wrong because I would like for other people to do the same. So I can't wish for somebody else to do something that I myself aren't willing to do. I could; it would be very human of me, but I don't. Um, the power of a name, and then a name given, and then he gets the name Raphael, I think. or somebody gets the name Raphael in the show. And Raphael deals with the heart and the emotions. It's reminded me of, it's like Aragon. I think Aragon was one of the first things that I consciously remember names. But it might not have been just in people. I feel like a word spell, like a spell, also falls within the realm of the power of names. Like if you could speak to an element and then give it direction. But I don't know anything about that. Like Harry Potter type of spells. Um, Even though I did just have a dream about, and maybe that's why, a stargate that leads to fantastic places, correcting what has been misused and stabilizing timelines at the bottom. Again, 10 of hearts. The top is the 4 of clubs. Ooh. Understanding the unseen, grasping the subtle, and a sacred vessel. Here's a sacred vessel, which is interesting. Understanding the unseen is also interesting because Tamiel, Angel of the Unseen, was like literally right there. And it talked about the fear that people sort of sat in whenever they witnessed a blind man do his ritual, or a blind angel do its rituals. Also, it's interesting because Barakiel, I think, the angel of lightning, it was like this was the first like piece of undeniable proof that the watchers were neither complete in their wisdom nor their immortality. And then Tamiel's existence was one that perplexed maybe both man and angel alike because he was blind. And it's like, how can you be something that's divine but be blind or have this imperfection? How can you be something that's divine but not be immortal or to be this unwise? And it's interesting because of the mythology, not deep dive, but the mythology dip that I just did. And I was talking to one of my friends today, and I was like, what is it about like deities associated with lightning and anger? Or it's not a lack of wisdom, but uh, it's just like, I don't know, like what is it about lightning that just makes people, maybe it's the power. And they say that absolute power corrupts absolutely or something like that. I wonder what would happen if an angel were to call your name. I wonder if it would awaken or stir something within someone. I don't know. All right, that's what I got. This was something. This was Taurus season, question mark. This is reminding me of like when I was like, ooh, let's pull cards for like the full moon in Virgo. And then the cards came out. I was like, what is this? This is not what I expected. But the full moon in Virgo initiated a lot of cleansing, clearing, purity. And it's almost like the various temples of the self were being made clean, were being made ready in preparation to welcome, it feels like to welcome an energy that's been maybe long since forgotten about. It also reminds me of like Coco, in the movie Coco. And in certain cultures, they believe that like, having a shrine and thinking about you keeps your memory alive, and keeping your memory alive keeps you alive in your afterlife. And when you're forgotten about, then it's like you cease to exist. But it's almost making me wonder like, so for those who have been forgotten and erased from existence, what would happen if randomly someday somebody remembered? And I feel like it's that sort of energy that this Taurus season, I don't know if it's this season or if it's starting in this season or wait, but it feels like that's almost the sort of question. And it reminds me, I just recently got the card. It came out with justice. because I remember it was Mayat with the scales, the heart, and the feather standing over the sarcophagus, and the card, an ancient word that stirs ancient things to life, whispered, and it was like, Mayat, if you are found, however she judges you is by the weight of your heart. Typically, historically, it's if your heart is lighter than a feather, then you get to go to the good place. But it's like she's judging you to see if these certain powers, gifts, or abilities are returned to you. It's like Mayad is awakening the ancient ones with these ancient words. And maybe the ancient word is just simply their name whispered somewhere in this plane of existence wakes them up. And it's like, oh yeah, girl, like what? Take it as it resonates. Take it as it resonates. Potentially, that's my favorite word. Potentially. And take it as it resonates. But it is a little bit of that feeling. And it almost feels like it's on the tip of the tongue. You watched one on the pyramid. What? I've never seen that. It feels like it's on the tip of the tongue. But honestly, and I think that's what that justice card standing over the sarcophagus was, especially with the world being in as precarious a state as it is right now. It's like what it doesn't need is like an ego boosted, unconstrained. Because once it's returned to you, you're still human in many aspects, at the very least. You're still human. I just watched a reading and somebody was like, I'm talking like shape shifting energy. If you shape shift physically, like no judgment. um, but yeah, because it's like once it's returned to you, there is no forcing you to abide by whatever. And so the testing, the trials, the challenges, the ego checks come up front, they come before. Because absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, we need to find the uncorruptibles or the incorruptibles. Um, because at least they'll use that power responsibly in the beginning. So, something about being fed to Hippolo, the gator and the hippo creature. Oh, if their heart was heavier? I think on the back of the Justice card in the vice versa tarot, they talk about that creature. And they also talk about it being like unleashed or something like that. And so it like starts eating people indiscriminately or something like that. Um, I think I remember that on there because I saw it one time. I was like, oh snap. And maybe that's another, I don't know. But then you got Cerberus, who was like the guardian of the underworld. So large animals who eat things. But almost last time, it felt like Cerberus's mouths were different portals to different areas, and each dog head corresponded to like Elysium, Tartarus, or like Limbo, like whatever's between. And whichever head ate you was the place that you went to, because I guess it poops you out when you get there. I don't know. All right, but I gotta go. I'll catch you later, Mimi. I hope you'll have a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope you don't limit your trans dimensionality to 5D or however many Ds. Um, I guess I don't know. I don't know what that's about. And I'll catch y'all later. Maybe tomorrow, maybe not. We'll see. Bye.